Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this video, and this video is something that I have not wanted to do ever, and I've never actually given it any thought, but my top 10 games ever, of all time, of everything. But before we get into that, a few things. Last video, Gears of War, everyone took that the wrong way. It wasn't me shitting on Gears of War, because if I wanted to absolutely destroy Gears of War, I could do it, but I didn't do it in that video. It was more or less talking about how they're delaying the game for all the wrong reasons, and it'll probably end up backfiring, which it will because they've got too much to compete with, but nonetheless we're not getting involved in that. Second thing, I have a taco stain on my shirt, so ignore that. And if anyone's going to the Armageddon Expo this weekend at Homebush in Sydney, send me a message, I'll be there. I'm sure we can do something. I highly doubt anyone that's watching this will be going because all my viewers are mostly out of the country. But before we get into my top 10, I thought I'd cock tease you a little bit. So I've got the top 10 games of all time, the top 10 games of this current generation, the worst games of this generation, and the biggest disappointments of this generation. So we'll start with those. Now keep in mind, these are games that I have played. So if God of War doesn't get mentioned, and Killzone, and all these other games don't get mentioned, it's because I haven't played them. These are my top 10, and I'm sure you have a better top 10 because you're better than everything that I am. But nonetheless, we'll get into it. So my top 10 disappointments. At number 10 we have Halo Reach. I wasn't looking forward to this. I didn't buy it. I only bought it a month ago. It is as disappointing as I thought it would be. It's too, you have to be, the multiplayer is such as, which is expected. It's not like other multiplayer games where you can be new and you can pick it up fairly easy and then start to become better and better. Halo Reach, if you're new, you're fucked. End of story. Number 9, Battle Stations Midway. I had high expectations for this game because I'm a fan of the strategic kind of game, but it just fell flat on its ass. Number 8, Just Cause 2. Big fan of the second one. A big fan of the first one. Just Cause 2. The voice acting was horrible. The story was horrible. But other than that, it was actually a pretty alright game. Number 7, Alan Wake. It was just way too repetitive. The story is awesome, but it was the repetitiveness of it and the hype for it was just a bit of a letdown, as you can tell by the top 10 disappointments. Number 6, Fallout New Vegas. We all know why. I've done hundreds of videos on that subject. If you want to know why, I'm sure they're in my backlog somewhere. Just type in New Vegas, you'll find them. Number 5, Borderlands. Meh. Number 4, Grand Theft Auto 4. Don't get me wrong, and this is another thing. These games aren't bad. They're just like a disappointment to me. So don't get the feeling that they're bad, although I'm sure number 1 and 2 are bad, but nonetheless. Grand Theft Auto 4, for obvious reasons, it was Grand Theft Auto Serious. Number 3 is Mafia 2. Again, type in Mafia 2, you'll find out my thoughts on that. Number 2 is Fable 3. To be honest, didn't have high expectations at all, but it definitely disappointed those low expectations. And number 1, Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. And I'll tell you, we'll get into that a little bit later on. So before I say anything more, you'll notice in the list that a little bit seem out of place. Like my top, for instance, this probably won't happen, but my favourite game of all time might also be one of my most disappointing games of all time, and number 9 is a current gen game on my best of all time, but on my best of the next gen it's number 1 and all this kind of stuff. So it's my list and I made it. I changed it that many times, so just bear with me. Right, now we'll get into the top 10 underachievers in the current generation, and they include at number 10 Bully. I think Bully is a pretty awesome game. It doesn't really get its respect that's due, probably because it's on PlayStation 2 and Xbox, original Xbox as well. Number 9, Tony Hawk's Proving Ground. I think I'm the only person on the planet that likes that game. Number 8, Splinter Cell Double Agent. I don't think it got its proper due, and Conviction outscored it, despite the fact that Splinter Cell Conviction isn't really a Splinter Cell game. Number 7, Red Faction. Love Red Faction. That's Sledgehammer. I mean, Red Faction and the Sledgehammer are a video game in itself. You don't need anything else. That's just how good that Sledgehammer is. Number 6 is Prey. If you haven't played Prey, it came out like 2006. Go and buy it for Xbox 360. It's awesome. And what video game do you get to be a Native American? A Native Indian American. Exactly. Number 5, Hitman Blood Money. Again, I don't think it has its proper due. Where are we? I've lost the bloody list. Number 4, Metro 2033. Awesome game. Awesome atmosphere. Go and check it out. Number 3, Saints Row, the original, I don't think got its proper due, and it was always labelled as a Grand Theft Auto clone and all this kind of stuff, and which people hesitated to go and play and buy it. So Number 2, Condemned 2, awesome game. If you haven't played it, go and play it, it's amazing. Number 1, Far Cry 2. I think I've beat this game maybe 3 or 4 times. That just shows you how much I love the old Far Cry 2. I love this setting. Like, I love an open world game that's in a different setting, and Africa really isn't a setting that you see every day. Alright, now the top 10 worst, or the worst 10... Top 10 worst, it really doesn't sound right, does it? So the worst 10 games of this generation, again, in my opinion, number 10, The Club. Horrible. Repetitive shite. Number 9, Conflict Denied Ops. Horrible, repetitive shite. You might actually see a pattern emerging here. Tomb Raider Legend, horrible shite. It really wasn't that repetitive, it's just fucking horrible. Number 7, Full Auto. I don't like racing games at the best of times, but this just sucks. Number 6, Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. You let me down, Banjo, you let me down. And Kazooie, don't forget Kazooie. You have a part to blame in this as well. Number 5, Perfect Dark Zero. Poor Rareware, they just can't get it right. They just can't get it right these days, and it's sad. Number 4, Brothers in Arms Hell Highway. Utter, repetitive, bland, boring shite. Thanks to the Brothers in Arms campaign, we now realise that the war in Germany and the war in Europe was all about destroying flak guns. Number 3, Lost. If you've played Lost, you'll know why. Number 2, Fusion Frenzy 2. Enough said. And number 1, the worst. This is probably the worst game I think I've ever played in my life. Is Clive Barker Presents Jericho. If you can find this for like $10, buy it, please, and endure the suffering and pain that this game truly brings. Now, we'll get into it. Here we go. My top 10 current gen games. At number 10, we have Red Dead Redemption. Amazing open world game by Rockstar, as you would expect. Awesome story, voice acting, multiplayer. It's all there. Go and buy it. Now, these are all games. This is like a product list. If you're just new to gaming, go and buy these games. All 10 of them. I don't give a fuck. You'll be broke by the time, but I don't care. You got to go and buy these 10 games. Number 9, Call of Duty World at War. Best Call of Duty in my opinion. And that'll be disputed a little bit later on, but we'll get into that later. Grand Theft, and number 8, Grand Theft Auto 4. It's just an amazing game. It was disappointing, but that doesn't take away the fact that it's an amazing game. Number 7, Heavy Rain. I was so excited for this game and it didn't let me down. It was awesome. It's different, interactive drama. Go support it so they make more. Number 6, Call of Duty 4. Now the reason I put Call of Duty 4 above World at War, and you'll notice this a little bit later on, despite the fact World at War is my favourite Call of Duty 4 really made me a hardcore gamer, and it really made me like first-person shooter games. So that's why it's so high up, just because of the memories and the feeling of that game, despite the shit connections. And I've always said that if Call of Duty 4 had good connection all the time, it would be my favourite Call of Duty. But unfortunately, 98% of the game was played on red and yellow connection, so you gotta back the winning horse. Number 5, Mass Effect 2. I really didn't like this the first time, and I think Mum's at the door. Mum, are you at the door? Good. Mass Effect 2. I really didn't like this the first time that I played it, but the second time I played it, amazing, awesome game. Go and buy it, and all the downloadable content. Number 4, Assassin's Creed 2. Assassin's Creed is just an awesome series, and you need to go out and buy all the games. Assassin's Creed 1 really wasn't that good, but the transition from number 1 to number 2 is awesome. And Brotherhood, people will say it's just an expansion. It is a fucking game in and of itself. Go and buy it. Number 3, Fallout 3. Amazing, huge game with amazing downloadable content. So go and buy the Game of the Year edition, and you get all the downloadable content. I think there's 5 downloadable contents for free with the game. Go and do that. Number 2, Uncharted 2, which I have, no, I'm not bothering, which I'm playing at the moment, again for like the 3rd time. Awesome game. The characters are so simply amazing, I can't put it into words. Go and buy that. And number 1, Saints Row 2. I'm a Saints Row fanboy, get over it. Alright, now, here we go. This is the big one. This is my top 10 games of all time. Now, I have changed this list. I spent like 2 hours writing this list, so here we go. Number 10, Fallout 3. For reasons I've said. Number 9, Gun. I loved this game. This game, Gun, on the original PlayStation 2. Epic. Amazing. Brilliant. Fun as shit. 100%ed it. That's one of the few games I've actually 100%ed, and Gun is one of them. Number 8, Uncharted 2. Number 7, WWF No Mercy. If you've played No Mercy, you'll know what I'm talking about, because it is the best wrestling game on the planet, bar none. And you don't even have to be a wrestling fan to love it. It was awesome. Many a time was spent playing that on the Nintendo 64 with like 3 or 4 people. On the good, you know, divide the screen by 4 back in the days where TV screens were this big. Number 6, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, my favourite Grand Theft Auto by a country mile. Amazing game. It was just awesome. Again, if you've played it, you know what I'm talking about. Number 5, Call of Duty 4. Just the simple impact it had on me playing video games is probably the biggest impact besides number 1. So yeah, Call of Duty 4, everyone loves it. Number 4, SimCity 3000. Amazing computer game, and they ruined it with SimCity 4. SimCity 3000, if you don't have, go and get it. I don't think it's on Steam, so go and buy it on eBay or whatever you have to do. You'll love it. It's awesome, awesome, awesome. Number 3 is a combined effort with Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie. Both epically amazing games. And I know I sound like a broken record saying everything's amazing, but it truly is an epic platforming adventure, and it's funny, and it's got everything, and it's good. Now, we get to the top 2. I'm going to cop a little bit of flack, or a lot of flack, for my number 2 choice, but number 2, Saints Row 2, I'm sorry, it's just that good to me. It is amazing. I'm a huge fan of the Saints Row series. Go and buy them. The 3rd one's supposed to be coming out this year. Go and pre-order that when it's available. Support Saints Row. And the number 1 game of all time for me, I never said that I would reveal my number 1. I would lead you on. You've probably all guessed it already. But the reason I never say it is because this game is on the Nintendo 64, and I feel bad because it can't compete with Uncharted 2, and it can't. But going back to that time, Mario 64, the best game of all time, bar none, absolutely amazing, turned me into a gamer. It was the first game I ever played on a console, Mario 64. If you can find it, if you haven't played it, you go to wherever you can get a Nintendo 64, and you play this game. Amazing! Go and buy them. Go and buy every single game on that top 10, and you won't be disappointed. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, there's my top 10. Until next time, I'm out.